What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Crazy Face Uno podcast. I'm your host, Shane McNeely. And just a reminder, we are inspiring others to do good, make a difference in our local and global communities. And I'm joined today for our final Bethel Boys Series. It's Derek Griffey. Welcome.
Hello, what's up, buddy? How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. Doing good.
Good to hear.
Derek, you are the final fifth one. The final
Save
guy.
The best for last, man.
Save the best for last. I know, for sure.
I know
so
how it is.
You are calling in, so it sounds a little different than maybe normal, but sounds pretty good on my side of things for being a Skype phone call. And yeah, so what I've pretty much done with all the other guys, I kind of mentioned it to you, but I'll just give you a little rundown as well, and it'll help everybody else kind of understand if you're just jumping in. We recently got together about a week and a half ago. It was 5 of us. So the first one was Tyler, Tony, Calvin, Sam came out today, and then it's Derek. We're recording right now, and this will go live on Wednesday. And yeah, so what I've pretty much stuck to, Derek, is just kind of talked about maybe like the motivation to go to Bethel for everybody, and then kind of like from that process, like going to Bethel, our friendships, our relationships, and then kind of walk through like, you know, that, I guess, those parts of our life and kind of up until now. So just kind of the journey of how we got to who we are today, and you know, telling stories about telling stories about, you know, the Calvert House, because that's kind of, you know, the Calvert House was a catalyst for like our friendships as a whole.
Definitely.
But yeah, what would you say, I mean, if we jump right into things, what would you say your biggest motivation for going to Bethel would be?
Oh, man. Back then, I just kind of flew by the seat of my pants. I just, I went to Bethel because that's where, I don't know, it's the only place I applied.
Yeah.
I was accepted. My dad went there.
Sure.
I was told, you know, if you want to have a good life, you're supposed to go to college. So I believe that. And, you know, that's pretty much it, man. I didn't put a lot of thought or thinking about it at all.
Yeah.
It's like you go to school. That's what you do.
Right.
And, I mean, turned out not to be the greatest choice financially. I would say it's negative.
Yeah.
A net negative.
Well, I mean, I'm right there with you. So, you know, I still got college debt, and I would say probably almost all of us do. Calvin and Tyler, I think, have gotten theirs taken care of, but I don't think the rest of us have. So,
still astronomical amount of debt for a worthless piece of paper.
Yeah, I know, right? You were going into college. You were a youth ministry major as well.
Yes, yeah, it's weird. Growing up, I was involved in youth group a lot. You know, or involved in the church from the beginning. Yeah. All the way through to Bethel and everything like that, and super involved in the youth group. Was like a youth leader, or part of the student leaders, I guess. And, did a bunch of that. Always was helping out of the church. Has some really good memories of that. That's how I met Tony, or got to know Tony. Right. Was through we went to the same youth group together, and that was cool. We ended up being in a band together, starting our first band together.
Yeah, I had forgotten about some of those types of things too. Tony had kind of mentioned it, and
yeah, the scene, man. It's all about the scene.
Yeah, so you were very much involved in like the band that you were involved in. What was it called? So
the band that Tony and I started was a band called Victory in Venice, and we were pretty bad. It was. I mean, it was good. I don't know. It was fun. That's what it was. Yeah. It was fun. And it's, you know, 16, 17-year-old kids trying their hardest to write, like, super meaningful songs with awful lyrics.
Yeah. Some of that's just, like, life experience, don't you think? With, like, with lyrics. It's, like, the more, man, We could probably talk about a lot of things nowadays, or write a lot. Are you still involved in music?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
So the band that I played in basically after college till about a year or two ago.
Trash the Dress?
Trash the Dress, yeah. That's a terrible name. I hate the name. But we did all right. We did good. We got to do a little bit of touring, got signed to a small label, got to put out a full-length album, recorded at a really nice place in Detroit. And so that was kind of like living the dream a little bit, I guess.
Sure.
But back to Tony and I doing that band thing
mm-hmm.
we were talking about earlier. So then I quit the band because I found there was a better band to join. So I was kind of a piece of shit and left Tony and Scooter and Josh.
Scooter, I remember Scooter now.
Yeah, Scooter, what a guy. And so I joined a band called Chapel Hill Tragedy. And that band was a lot of fun. It was very much along the lines of like Census Fail and like a little heavier than Census Fail, I guess. Okay. But that was heavily influenced from that. And it was kind of a right place, right time band.
Yeah.
We were everywhere we played locally in Michigan or Indiana. It was just nuts, man. Like,
as a whole, your music style was kind of a little harder, right? A little more.
Yeah, always alternative, always along the. It was like pop punk. So Victory in Venice was like kind of trying to be an Emery wannabe, so a lot of singing and screaming.
Yeah.
And then Chapel Hill was like more heavy Census Fail.
Yeah.
And then Trash the Dress was like easy core pop punk. So
a little.
Like Warrior Strong and like later Newfound Glory and stuff like that.
Sure.
A Day to Remember. You know, that style.
Yeah, A Day to Remember was one of my favorites back in college, but that was like the only like group that I really liked that was like hard like that, you know?
Or heavy at all.
Yeah. But I remember you and Tony probably both, but I specifically remember you because you were still like into that music scene, even in, freshman and sophomore, just pretty much throughout college anyway. But you introduced me to a lot of that style of music. Like we would go to like Sam, you, me, Tony, I don't know who else would go, but Scooter, I think. But we'd all go to some of the shows, like the local shows. And I remember going to a couple of those with you guys. And I mean, I wouldn't call it my style, but it's fun. It's like,
it's not a lot of people's style.
No, but like it's a fun experience. And I still remember, I mean, I remember going to those shows. I still remember that process. I still remember like just kind of supporting and learning more about, different music styles. And I remember you guys used to play in the basement. Tyler mentioned that in his podcast, how that was one of his favorite memories of like you guys playing in the basement, just Tony on the guitar or Tony on the drums and you rocking out. And that
was a lot of fun.
Matt.
A lot of fun.
Yeah. So coming into Bethel, then I remember you and Tony showing up at least because Sam and I had already been there for a little while because of soccer. And you guys, I've said this joke every time, but you guys were 3 doors down, like the band, at the very end of the hallway. And it was like us 4 for sure were a closer group of people, I would say. Mm-hmm. Like we tended to spend a lot of time together, and we're like-minded, obviously, and those friendships continued to grow. When you got to Bethel, do you remember like anything? Like, does anything stick out to you, or do you remember like just kind of showing up and do you remember that at all? Like meeting us or meeting?
I remember the first day when we showed up, and it was we're all like in a circle around the pond in the middle with all our parents and everyone singing. I remember it feeling like church camp. Yeah, it kind of was like it felt so much like I was like, oh, this is just going to be church camp for 4 years, and it kind of was.
Yeah.
Just like
it wasn't far off from that. That's for sure.
I mean, I think I probably count on one hand like how many parties I went to.
Oh yeah, we didn't really go to parties at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
we were
the party
branded as the party guys.
I know.
Weren't.
No. We just we pushed the boundaries, so I think we just got lumped in with some of that, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
But
oh well, I mean, I definitely did party, but it just
I didn't go to a really.
It wasn't very many times, you know.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even call the quote parties we went to even parties probably anymore.
Yeah, I think there's like one where I was like, oh, this is a real party.
Yeah. It was always like little get-togethers or whatever you'd snuck around. So for those that maybe aren't familiar with Bethel, it used to be formerly Bethel College. They just got their new name, Bethel University. But Bethel, we were required to sign a covenant, which was basically just like a contract that said we wouldn't drink on or off campus and smoke and have sex and whatever it was. I honestly don't. I would love to like read it now because I have no idea what it said. But I mean, we did. I mean, personally, I feel like for the most part honored the covenant, but obviously broke it. I drank.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like
I definitely broke it.
Yeah.
I think everything in it, I probably broke it.
Yeah, probably.
I can almost guarantee.
Yeah. I guess it wasn't just like every day that was our mission to like go break the covenant, but or break our contract.
You're
but
18 years old and you're not thinking, you don't understand like what it means to make a promise. You
know?
Like,
or like once you turn 21, like the drinking rules, like you can drink off campus. That kind of seemed silly at that time too. I get it, I guess, but I don't know. I don't think you're teaching people like necessarily lessons in discipline and taking care of yourself and just drawing a hard line.
All those like lessons in discipline and self-control, especially when it comes to like substances, I think for most people it's a like trial by fire. Yeah, you gotta live and learn. Like,
there's a big component to that.
Learn from others, but not me.
Yeah. So Derek, you graduated with a youth ministry degree as well, then?
No. I started out as a youth ministry major.
I couldn't remember
which is funny because I just like the summer before I wasn't going to go to Bethel. The summer before I was playing in that Chapel Hill band. Things were going really well. We were in talks with some labels, and everywhere we were playing, things were just popping off. It was going really good. Lived in this crappy trailer in Elkhart that had like it didn't have any running water the entire time I was there. And the first week we didn't have electricity. And it was just a party house where we would practice and smoke a ton of cigarettes, and people would be doing drugs, and cops were there all the time. I was just getting into trouble.
Yeah.
You know? And one thing happened that like snapped me out of it. I was like, oh, this is too far.
Yeah.
Like, it was there was like guns involved and shooting, and it was I wasn't at the place. I was back at the trailer where this all went down, but they came back and told me about it. And I was like, okay, I'm out. Wash my hands of this. This is way too much, man.
Yeah.
And so I worked for UPS for about a month, and I was like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. Dad, I'm gonna go to college now. Like, last minute, I got in with Tony, because for like 3-person dorm was Tony and then our buddy Jake that we also knew from River Valley.
Yep.
And but yeah. So I was.
So you jumped right in.
Back into it, and I was like, "Oh, like, this is too crazy." I'm gonna be youth minister now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thinking that was like as far as I would fall, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But
so what did you switch to?
I ended up switching to elementary education, and then I realized I didn't care if children learned.
There you go.
At least back then I didn't.
Yeah.
And then I switched to graphic design because I figured, I'm a
graphic
creative
design,
guy.
That's right. Yeah.
Maybe I can get an art degree and get to put that to work for me.
Yeah.
And I figured it'd be pretty easy, and it was.
Yeah.
And I ended up with a bachelor's in visual arts.
Nice. So I forgot about that. And was that your junior year that you switched to the graphic arts, or was that before then?
Sophomore year.
Sophomore year, okay.
I think I did one semester the first semester of my sophomore year I did elementary education, and then switched to graphic design.
Yeah.
Like that next semester of my sophomore year.
I feel like you and Sam may have been the only two to really kind of stick with what you started, because Ty changed too, right? Ty would have been the other one.
Yeah, I switched twice, so.
Oh, that's what. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I meant
no problem.
Sam and Tony would have maybe been the only two that stuck with the same thing. And it's funny because I switched as well, right? So after my freshman year, I was a nursing major my freshman year, and then after that, I switched to the youth ministry myself. Yeah. So then Tony and I.
Finish?
I finished as a youth ministry major, adolescent studies and youth ministry, as I like to say, because I feel like it sounds better than just youth ministry major.
Right.
But
yeah,
but I feel the same way. Like
degree.
I just have this.
Like your and mine, my visual arts degree is completely useless.
Yeah.
Like
it requires after stuff unless you want to be a youth pastor for me, and then
no one needs a degree to be a graphic designer, and no one needs a degree to be a youth pastor.
Right.
Like
right.
I don't know what I was thinking back then.
Yeah.
Two out of my 3 degree choices were completely worthless.
Well, here we are.
I know, man.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
So So I'm starting to like remember some of these like pieces. Talking with Sam yesterday, it kind of helped me remember some of the little bits of. So after freshman year, So Tony and Sam went on their bike trip. I believe it was after the freshman year. What did you do that summer? Do you remember?
I don't even know.
If you don't remember, it's totally fine. So, like, I remember I went to youth.
2009?
It would have been 2007 spring, because we came in fall 2006. So it would have been spring 2007. We'd have came back fall 2007 would have been our sophomore year.
The summer of 2008 that's when they did their bike trip, right? Or was it the summer of 2007 they did it?
I think it was the summer of 2007.
Oh man! So that summer, all I did was work. I worked for a company called Raise Protective Coatings.
Okay.
Did flat roof systems, and like we did this special coating on rubber roofs and power washed commercial buildings and
nice.
Repainted them, and it was. I think I got paid like $11 an hour, working 14-hour days in the sports.
That was good money back then.
I know, it was great.
That was great money. Yeah, because I went to YouthWorks, and I think that was right, or was it? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're right. Maybe their bike trip was after our sophomore year.
I think it was.
Yeah, freshman year.
That's the summer I worked at
Spring
Hill.
Right, and I worked at the lumberyard that summer.
Gotcha.
Yep, never mind. So it would have been 2008. You're right.
What'd you do at the lumberyard?
I just worked and pulled parts as people came around. You know, like when you go to Menards or those places nowadays, and you go and back into the yard and you hand them your slip, and then So
you were just getting jacked, dude, just getting swole.
I did come in my sophomore year a little stronger than I normally have been. This is true. Nice. But yeah, I worked there, and it sucked too, though. I mean, you know how it is. It's like you're just putting in your time and waiting for the summer to be over in some ways, which looking back is silly and stupid and sucks. But
yeah, no, I was waiting for the summer to be over too, because college was fun, man.
Yeah, well, and like I was dating, somebody at the time too, so we were doing the long distance through the summer type thing. So I was like,
that feeling.
Wanna whatever. So, but yeah, then came back. That was when I decided and declared my major as adolescent studies and youth ministries, coming back my sophomore year. And so it would have been that year that we kind of all got connected with the Catholic Worker.
Oh yeah.
And Sam was reminding me that it was kind of the first one, or the first like introduction was the house that they had.
Our Lady of the Road, right? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I think so. And then we'd go there, and they had like their community like open house thing where we came in and we helped fix dinner or whatever, and chopped the salad up or helped with whatever. Did dishes. Yeah, and then had dinner with everybody, the people that lived in the house and people from the community. And then that was, I think Rick was there, Rick Becker, and I think he was the one that kind of like, or all of those guys really that were there, but had suggested we start, kind of checking out the drop-in center. And that was like I forgot about that part, I guess, or how that all kind of came about. And I don't really remember, because I've mentioned it, but I wasn't a part of the group that was in the house, but I was a part of it, if that makes sense.
Yes. No,
and I don't remember why or how all that.
You were probably a part of it more than I was, because I didn't, like, I went and did the Catholic worker stuff, and but I didn't do it as often as the other guys.
Yeah.
Like,
it's true. And there was often times where, I know Tyler even mentioned that there were times when I was probably at the house more than you were certain weeks, you know? Because I would just sleep on the couch or do my thing. Do you remember that process, or like what was your perspective of kind of getting involved with the Calvert House and like that whole process and going? Do you remember?
I remember a little bit. I was very much a along for the ride kind of guy.
Okay.
So, you know, I put my ideas forth, and like, I was interested in doing this. I wanted to help out, like, live in community with people.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted more organic relationships. You know, I'm not really. I didn't want to do anything forced, like anything that felt forced, which is what kind of sucked about the more Bethel got involved, the more like a program it was, instead of just being. You know, we just wanted to be there and let, at least my vision for it, and I think a lot of the other guys too at the time, was we will be there, and what happens will happen. You know,
right?
Like, just, it's organic. Let's build friendships with people that want to be, you know, that we will build friendships with, and that don't be
intentional, but it's not. You're putting yourself in a situation to be available for people that need you, and not be like. Okay, here we go.
Just like real life. It was basically, the whole thing was to choose to live in an area where they may need some help, as opposed to living on campus in a dorm room.
Right.
That was basically the only difference that it was going to be.
Everyone's sentiment has been the same about Bethel getting involved and kind of ruining things. Every single person has said that. So. Yeah,
it's like a band selling out, or whatever you want to call it. There's so many metaphors for it, but it got too corporate, I guess.
Yeah, and I was talking, you know, Sam and I kind of fleshed this out yesterday, but it was, I think it was a combo of like Tony, Calvin, Tyler, Sam. I don't know, maybe Matt too. Maybe, I don't know if you had scholarships, but I think it was like a little bit of that, like the scholarship stuff.
Yeah.
And then having the meals, because you guys still wanted to be able to use your meal plan.
Oh yeah, I didn't care about any of that meal plan stuff.
Right.
Whatever they said, like, that was the thing where I'm like, oh, just along for the ride, whatever happens here.
Yeah.
I'll do whatever they want.
And I mean, it makes sense in some ways. I think Sam and probably Matt, I know, because of you had to live on campus till your senior year, I think, was the whole deal.
Yeah, and there was a thing where they had back then, I don't know if they still have it, but Matt wasn't able to live at the house and because he was an international student, so he had to live basically on Bethel's property, wherever that was, but he wasn't allowed to not live on Bethel's property.
Right. And so there was
like
that
an international student thing, yeah.
Exactly. And I think that was one of the biggest, you know, some of those different pieces were some of the catalysts for getting Bethel involved. And so once it was presented, then they wanted to have more control. And then, you know, our senior year, at least, that's when Sam reminded me that they were like, yeah, we need to have more control of this, and started picking the houses in Keller Park neighborhood. And I wasn't privy to that conversation.
Completely over.
Yeah. Yep.
And then I remember they invited, like...
They started choosing the people, I think, or something, too,
yeah,
right?
They did. They started choosing the people, and then I remember there was a chapel, and they were talking about the urban ministry house, and, like, how the people that were up on stage were, like, the first ones to do this and stuff, and, they, like, totally... It was never about credit, but it was always one of those things where Bethel did it. Like, they just, like, lied to everybody. They're like, this group on stage had this idea, and they're the first urban ministry house.
Yeah.
And, like, we never happened. Like,
right.
I just didn't like how they lied about it. It was weird. Mm-hmm. It just I forgot about that. Put a bad taste in my mouth. I need to forgive them for that.
Yeah. But, I mean, I forgot about all this too. And, you know, some of it's that I just wasn't in those meetings that you guys had, but we always had the conversations because I was always at the house and a part of, you know, the friend group. And all of that. Yeah. But do you remember, okay, so just for everybody out there, if you're just tuning in, you haven't listened to the other ones, one of the catalysts for us all kind of getting together, back together, was the passing of Matt. And just kind of a reminder of the importance of those friendships, I feel like, in some ways. And so Matt passed away 2 years ago, and it was shortly after that. I mean, Tony came out for the funeral, and then you came out right before then, and which happened to be my like bachelor party with my wife, bachelorette party, and which was awesome. It was the first time I had seen you, and so we kind of had all, in some ways, Calvin and Tyler were the ones that we hadn't really seen, but the other, Tony and you, Sam and I had seen out here just because of that, and but that was the first time us all back together in almost 10 years.
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah. Do you have any memories of the house, of the Calvert house? Do you have any like fond memories? I mean, the sky's the limit. You can tell as many fun stories as you have, or
my memories, like what's just immediately popping up is Saturday nights. So we would always have a bunch of people over.
Yeah,
like Eric Cooley and that's the only name I can remember right now.
Yeah, some of the gals would come over.
I just remember.
Yeah,
I remember that. That was always a lot of fun. I remember when we had all the neighbors over. The cookouts and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
I remember longboarding down Ironwood.
Right.
In the middle of the night.
Yeah.
That
with
hill, just
Matt and Calvin.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. I remember we like made a lot of meals together.
Mm-hmm.
And I always liked that.
Yeah.
Because the points in my childhood where I had that, like the meals together thing, it's awesome. So that's a really good memory. I remember like shredding chicken for some Spanish or Hispanic meal that we were having, and I don't know, Tony being weird and just dancing, doing
Tony being Tony.
Yeah, it was a good time.
It was a good time. You know, some of the fun memories I had too, or whatever reason this sticks out to me, was like the Krispy Kreme donuts.
Oh yeah, where we just dumpster dive for those.
Yeah, we go to the dumpsters because they'd close at the end of the day. Whenever they'd close, they'd just throw them in on top in the box, the ones that were left over, because they had to make them fresh. Yeah. And so if you were sneaky about it, you could go in there and take the ones off the top, and they weren't even open; they were still sealed, taped together. I
remember Calvin's dog, Weezer.
Yeah, Weezer.
Pug dog. That dog, I loved so much. It'd sleep with me every night between my legs.
Sam was talking about Weezer. That was a good remember.
Oh my gosh, Weezer was a great dog.
Yeah.
I loved Weezer. That pug, man.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to get a pug in my life again, because that was a great dog.
You should. I know. I feel like Sam had similar sentiments yesterday. He was like, "Oh, Weezer. Love that guy."
And we did, for one of my classes, we had to do, it was like English literature or something like that, and we had to make a video, version of one of the stories. And like Weezer was involved as a wizard.
Yeah.
Had to like eat popcorn or something.
You need to find that and send it to our group.
Yeah.
That was funny.
I do need to find that.
Speaking of videos, because you had recently sent us a video of you, Matt, and Sam, a video. Also, by the way, my wife and I watched that and we were dying. But you killed it. You had the best dance moves out of everybody.
I was feeling it, man.
Yeah.
We did that choreography. We spent it was a video as a dance routine to Every Time We Touch. It was.
And you just had the shoulder roll. Everything was smooth, and like you were on point, man. You were on point.
I'm not super proud of that video. But
really? I think you should be.
It's funny.
I think you've got a future in the industry.
Yeah. It's a good memory, especially seeing Matt have fun too.
I know.
What sucks is that was supposed to be a Bethel Battle of the Air Bands or whatever, and instead of doing a band, we were going to do a dance routine to that song, and then they canceled the event. We spent all day.
So you guys made the video instead?
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha.
Put it on YouTube. way back in the day.
I couldn't remember why and that was in Tony's basement, right? His mom's basement? No, it was in the
basement of Brenneman.
Right, that's right. Brenneman.
Yeah, that was the dorm basement. So
funny. Gosh.
Yeah, we were gonna have streamers and a strobe light and all that good stuff, man. It was gonna be wild. We would have won for sure. I just, I feel it in my heart.
Absolutely. I mean, 3 good-looking guys and those shoulder rolls you had.
Oh yeah.
Woo! On point.
Rocking some nice Goodwill finds.
Heck yeah.
That pony. Was I wearing a pony tank top? I don't know. It was a nice looking tank top, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure. All of the outfits were pretty decent, though. But
yeah.
Derek, it's funny because you played a big role in my life, and I'm not sure if I had told you that before this last weekend, but one of the big, pivotal moments in my life was because of a question that you had asked me. And we were at lunch one day, and I believe you and Matt and Tony had been reading The Irresistible Revolution by Shane Claiborne. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about God and war and guns and violence and pacifism and whatever. And I had a differing view than you guys on that a little bit, I believe. I hadn't read the book yet either, which I think was probably one of the bigger reasons that because once I had read the book, then it kind of also shifted my thinking a little bit. But you had asked me, I had took a stance on something. I couldn't tell you what we were even the specific topic, but and I had given my viewpoint or contradicted whatever you guys had said, and you just looked at me and said, "But why do you believe that?" And that simple little phrase is part of who I am today. So thank you.
No problem, man. It's part of me. It's part of myself as well. Why do I believe certain things?
Yeah.
And also to question everything.
Yeah.
Dig deep and don't be afraid to go where maybe others won't go.
Yeah. It was a big moment for me because I had just been going through, I think that was the first time I had been challenged on what I believed, me personally, right? Yeah, and I had never really had to defend that before or knew why. I honestly, when you asked me, I had no idea. And I remember telling you, I don't know, And,
but at least you were honest.
Yeah.
You didn't make something up.
And it just stayed in my head for a long time, and I eventually came to the conclusion that because that's what I've always known, and because that's what my parents had told me, or that's kind of their take on things, and I hadn't really formed my own thoughts, and so it just led me down that road of, and in a lot of ways, it really challenged me throughout the rest of my college time at college. Of just constantly trying to figure out what I believe. And again, I think it allowed me to ask that question too, of ask well, why?
Yeah.
And even I think that was good because in the Bethel world and in my major, adolescent studies, I took a lot of Bible classes and theology classes. And again, I got to the point where I wasn't afraid to just ask the question. I don't know, why is that? What is free will? Do we have free will? Is there choice? I don't know, all those different things. But I wanted to highlight that because for me, I give you all the credit, and I never forgot that because it was such a pivotal point.
Credit, but I'm glad that I was able to say something that you found valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you going through college? What are some other good memories that you might have, or do you have any Bethel memories that you would want to share or think about?
Sure. I mean, just since we're on the topic of questioning things and pursuing truth and whatnot.
Yeah.
I remember the first night after my first class in intro to logic and critical thinking, and they had us read.
Who did you have for that one?
A few chapters of Socrates, And I remember I couldn't sleep that night because the questions it like opened up a whole world to me. And I remember sitting I was on the bottom bunk in our dorm in Brenneman. We set it up to like triple layers, so I was on the way bottom. It was like a little cubby hole, and I went to bed probably at like midnight, and I don't think I slept that whole night. I mean, it was just questions and wait, why do I think this? Or
did you have Chad Meister?
No, I didn't. I forget who I had.
I had the bad guy.
Maybe I did have Meister. I don't know.
I had the guy that got fired after I was there. I was the last one. He didn't teach that class after that. He was terrible. I'm so bummed too because I feel like that's a class that I would have really taken a lot from.
You can still read Socrates. I mean, that's basically what the class was reading Socrates and discussing it and reading Plato's Republic.
I have actually
Aristotle, but
I have read a little bit, but I haven't really gone back. But I do want to read more of this stuff. But yeah, just logic and critical thinking in general. I think that's maybe a strength of mine nowadays. And that at that time when I took that class, it was definitely whatever that guy was trying to teach me. It wasn't computing in my brain.
Yeah, nice. So, there's just so much stuff I just didn't care about in college, and same thing in regular school. Elementary, junior high, and high school. I just didn't care about almost anything. Like I would do. I cared about making music is what I cared about in high school, and that was it. I got good grades. I just didn't try at anything.
Yeah.
I think I even got scholarships to Bethel and and it just. But I just flew by the seat of my pants. I was along for the ride on everything.
I feel like I kind of was too.
It's something I've recently discovered about myself that like I'm an along for the ride kind of guy, and maybe I should take the reins a little more often.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense completely.
Yeah, it's weird. I just blew with the wind, man. It's wild.
Junior year, what did you do our senior year? Where did you live? You were over kind of back at Brenneman, weren't you?
No, so senior year, that would have been 2010.
Uh-huh.
So I had just gotten married that summer.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yep. But you guys kind of lived in
I was living, my wife and I were living, at the time, in like these ghetto apartments behind Big Lots, and for like $400 a month. And like the first New Year's, like we got woken up at like 3 a.m. because the neighbor across, like on the other side of the wall, was just like beating the shit out of his woman. I had to call the cops and talk to them about that. It sucked, man.
That sucks a lot.
It was wild. That was so, yeah. I kind of dropped off the map, I think, with all you guys after that. Like 2010 I definitely think I lost touch. I started Trash the Dress by then, and was doing all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I remember going to a couple of your shows or whatnot, but and Tony and I were living at his mom's house in Granger.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So
everything kind of fell apart in 2010.
As
friendships go.
Yeah, it did. And later, it was Tony and I and Sam, and like our relationships kind of broke off and fell apart. And
yeah. Sam and Matt came over the house I was living at, I think 2012 or 2013 one time, came and stopped by. And then I don't think I saw Matt again after that.
Yeah. It's hard to those moments are hard, I feel like. Because I don't know how it was for you, but for me, the weekend all together was really great. I really enjoyed just rekindling some of those friendships and realizing how important they were in my life, I guess, and how open we all are in different places in life. We're not in the same places, and we don't believe the same things we did. We don't believe the same things we, as each other now, and each of us, like, we're all different, but it didn't matter. And I think that that's the beauty of our relationships. And I think that's the test of true friendships.
Yeah, for sure.
In some ways it's like, dude, I mean, even like the last day when you and I were having a conversation and I just didn't know what to say and I just didn't want to keep talking about it. And I was like, dude, I love you. We gave each other a hug and I just don't want to talk about this anymore. And we were totally cool with that. Right. And it's like, it has nothing to do with like not loving the other person. But I think in today's society, we have such a hard time with that, of separating the things that we believe from the person or the individual. And there are tons of things that we are the same and we do agree on. And I think that there's a huge focus on the opposite things that we don't agree on in today's society, the negativities of today's society.
Yeah, those things are always the most fun to talk about, though.
Yeah, they're easy to talk about. It's like low-hanging fruit.
It is. They are fun to. And I'm a guy that I like confrontation. I like debating.
Okay.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I hate confrontation, but I like debating, which is kind of funny.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm all about confrontation. Obviously, be kind.
Yeah.
Be kind, but don't be fearful.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Derek, I know this next kind of part, I guess we kind of dipped into it, but whatever you want to tell us about, post-college, I would love to hear about, again, we kind of lost touch and I don't know how much we really talked about, like post-college till we really reconnected a couple of years ago. So, I'm all ears. I would love to just kind of whatever your version of whatever you want to tell us, whatever you want to tell me.
For sure,
I totally respect whatever you want to say and whatever you want to keep to yourself. So,
So, 2010 was senior year.
Yeah.
I ended up doing a victory lap since I changed my major. I had to do 2 extra semesters. So
you were with Sam was the same way.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Just sapping more money. But so I was living with my ex-wife, and so there's that part of that.
Yep.
But so that was 2011. I graduated. The band stuff was going on. I was with Trash the Dress, and I think we had 2011, 2012, and 2013 those were the big years for that band. We were on the road a lot, playing a lot. I was working odd jobs because at that time there was no design jobs anywhere, especially not any entry level jobs in Elkhart, Mishawaka, or South Bend.
Yeah.
And so I worked as a preschool teacher in the morning, working with special needs kids with autism.
Yeah.
And that was a very fulfilling job.
Yeah.
Those kids were great, and it took a lot of patience, and I learned a lot of patience and how to handle things when things are pretty much outside of your control. You do what you can, and then that's what you have to do.
Right.
And accept it.
Right. And that was with elementary school, you said? Young kids?
Preschool.
Yeah.
Yep. So I worked with 3 to 5-year-olds, basically.
So we worked on like the opposite end of that world in some ways, because you were the young ones coming in, and I was the old ones going out.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Yeah, it was an interesting time in my life because I would do that during the day, and then at night I worked at a bar as a bouncer. So it was that
confrontation.
Was
there you go.
Different time. Yeah. And,
what do you have any good stories from that job, bouncer?
Yeah. There was a huge, biggest fight. It was the first fight I'd really ever been in. I'd been in a couple tiny little scuffles back in elementary and high school that were they don't count.
Yeah. No.
So the first real fight I was in was basically more than half the bar of this fairly large bar. We could fit 500 or 600 people in there, and half the bar just started beating the shit out of each other. Did
they know each other, or was it like 2 groups, or?
I don't know. So it's one of those things where like those old Western movies where one guy punches another and then everyone just starts fighting each other.
Yeah.
That's exactly
how it happened.
Crazy. And so me and I think we probably had 10 other bouncers or 12 other bouncers that night, along with we hired police officers too to help us.
Gosh.
And it took like 30 to 40 minutes to clear this bar out, and like people I was choke slamming people, getting punched. Like it was awesome. It might have been the most fun I've ever had in my entire life. I threw up afterwards from the adrenaline rush.
No way.
That's
awesome.
Exhilarating. I would love to do it again. It was amazing. It was amazing that no one got seriously injured.
Yeah.
Outside of like black eyes and bruises, but no one pulled a gun, no one pulled a knife. Like,
that's awesome.
It could have been so much worse, but just a freaking bar brawl. That was an awesome time. Yeah, that was crazy. So that was a great memory from my time as a bouncer.
That's cool.
There's a few other things, getting to kick out like super snobby like Notre Dame pre-law students and stuff that were just huge douchebags.
Bye.
Yeah.
See you later.
One guy we had like a note for guys you couldn't wear like any chains or necklaces because we were having a problem with that, and we would just tell people that were doing that, hey, you got to tuck in your chain, like don't have them out. And this little like pre-law scrawny Notre Dame kid wearing all pastel colored pants and shirts and tiny shorts with loafers and all that stuff, and he just kept pulling. Like I would turn around and I would turn around, he'd pull the chain back out, and getting to kick him out was a pleasure.
Yeah. What was the deal with the chains? I don't get it.
It was just because a lot of the fights that we were having is usually people with big, huge chains on and stuff. Oh. So we were like, in order to try to avoid that kind of behavior, it's like, well, this is an obvious marker of that. So just tuck in the chain, and if you can't handle that rule, that one simple thing, like you got to go.
Interesting.
Because there was fights all the time, and this is basically right on Notre Dame's campus, so they can't be having that.
Yeah.
So that was
interesting. That's I've never heard that rule, but cool.
They instituted a really strict dress code because it was out of control, the fighting. Someone even got shot just outside of the place.
What?
So it was
South Bend wild. Getting wild.
Well, that's what happens. It was they're kind of gentrifying that area, so
sure.
They built up this Eddy Street Commons right up next to basically the ghetto, and then there were issues that came from that for sure. It's you can go into all the socio-economic stuff if you want, but
no, that's okay.
It was wild. It was just a wild time. I was along for the ride.
Yeah.
And but the kid that wouldn't put his chain back in, I'm walking towards the door and I have my hand on his face. He's like, don't you touch me, trying to get all big. And so I get I pull my hand off and I just keep going. And right before the doors, he turns to swing on me. So I grab his hand, spin him around, like took him by the wrist and had it kind of up his back, kind of near between his shoulder blades, and I pushed his head through the doors, and it was glorious. And the main bouncer guy's like, whoa, what's going on? What's he doing? I'm like, this guy's out of here. Turned to swung on me, check the cameras,
Yeah.
And it was that was a lot of fun too, man. I think that's when I learned I like confrontation. I get something from it.
Maybe that's your calling.
Yeah, maybe. Just go back to being a bouncer.
You should just be like a big, for a band or something, just be their bodyguard.
Yeah. I think I'd have to, get in pretty good shape for that.
Get swole. You can. I'll be your personal trainer.
There we go. I need it, man.
Let's do it.
But yeah, so during that time, I was a bouncer. I was a preschool teacher or program assistant, and then I played in a band and was married. And
so you're busy. That's what you're saying.
Busy guy. Yeah. Well, I don't know. My life was full, I guess.
Yeah, it's weird. I look back on those moments. I don't think I could do it today. I mean, I could if I had to, I suppose. Yeah. But, like, man, my junior year was like that, especially. I had class, which I had a full workload. I had Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I had biblical Greek, I believe it was, at 8 a.m., which was rough.
Yeah. 8 a.m. classes.
8 a.m. class was just rough.
I love that. But...
Yeah, I know, right? That's what the other part to this. But I also don't stay up now as late as I did then. But yeah, I'd have that. And then I had a full days of class. I would actually leave my last class of the day early and go to work because I worked as like a site supervisor for the YMCA with their like after school program deal. Mm-hmm. And I'd go there till it was like basically 3 to 6, like 3 hours or whatever, or 2:30 to 6 or whatever it was. And my soccer practice started at 6 o'clock. So I would try to get out of there early if I could, or if all the kids got picked up, I was able to go. But I'd go straight to soccer practice and literally like park and run, you know, change my clothes really quick, go through practice till 8:30, whatever that looked like. Yeah. And then generally get food because I had to eat at 8 or whatever. And so by 9 o'clock, and then I need to shower. I'm like 10 o'clock by the time 9:30, 10 o'clock by the time I was ready to like sit down and do homework. Man. And I remember that was like rough. And I didn't think about it. That sucked. That was bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say my life is probably just as busy now. It's just different things. You know?
Yeah. Probably the same too. It just looks different.
Yeah. But yeah, so while all that was going on, it's when I fell, you know. I cheated on my wife multiple times.
Yeah.
She had an emotional affair. I think, you know, probably I was not giving her what she needed. That's definitely true. I was gone all the time. Mm-hmm. I definitely put myself and my band before her for sure.
Yeah.
But there's other reasons too why it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm not gonna talk shit about her or anything like that because that's not my place. I'm only gonna talk about, you know, my side of things.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't a good fit. You know, I don't think that's an excuse to get divorced at all. You know, I've kind of come full circle back. You know, I've been run the gamut of youth group, just your regular churchianity kid, to you know, full on you know, Sam Harris, Joe Rogan atheist kind of guy. And, you know, went through the agnostic phase and then have come full circle back to you know, a born again Christian.
Yeah.
And I understand. You know, I get it, what it means to be born again and have your mind renewed and all that stuff I didn't understand before.
Sure.
But yeah, I went to, you know, I did some stuff. It was, you know, evil, man. And that's all within me. Sure, I don't know what Calvin talked about on his podcast, but we kind of have a similar understanding of what is inside of us, you know. And I think it's inside of all men, the capability to do really bad things.
Yeah.
And I think the only way out of that mindset of where you're beating yourself up for it, or where either where you hate yourself because of it, or you just keep pursuing that and like, oh, this isn't wrong, you know, even though you know it is. The only way to get through that is accepting it and being like, yes, this is a part of who I am, you know. I was capable of doing this. I am capable of doing this.
Yeah.
Now how can I avoid this in the future? You know?
Sure.
I'm never going back there. You know, failure's not an option.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you know, doing the band stuff, playing on the road, and, you know, the temptations of Instagram and Facebook and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And I didn't know who I was as a man. You know, I when I was working as a bouncer, I thought that made me a man. You know.
Yeah.
I thought, you know.
That confrontation and that control, maybe.
Yeah, a little bit. I thought, you know, if I was good looking enough. And, after, I'd go to the bar and I could, look at any woman in the eye and try to, I didn't really want to like fuck a lot of women. I wanted women to want to fuck me. It was like it's super weird.
No, I get it.
I've heard other people, say similar things. So I guess it's not that weird, but, no, and I thought that made me a man. I thought being a man meant, having sex with a lot of women or being desired by women. I just didn't know who I was at all in my 20s. I was holding on to the whole music thing and being in a band and trying to make it. I held on. I loved the way music made me feel when I was, 14, 15, 16 years old, and wanting to recreate that feeling. And then when I finally did and got to play in some decent bands and where, people responded positively, and there'd be mosh pits and, they'd buy our shirts and all that kind of stuff, and want us to come to their town or city to play. Like, that was an awesome feeling, and it all just fed into my ego. And I'm like, oh, this is what makes me a man, is like I'm a successful for Elkhart, Indiana musician.
Sure. Yeah.
And I thought that made me a man. And so, but then after my divorce, I really hit a place where I needed to find truth. I was just thirsty for truth. Like, I needed to know. I was like, what is truth? What is a man? Why? Like, I just didn't know. I didn't know. And so,
yeah. So where did you turn to?
What did I first turn to? It was Joe Rogan and Bad Christian Podcast. The Bad Christian Podcast was kind of like my last thread to Christianity.
Okay.
So I would listen to those guys.
Yeah.
And I got to go to a live podcast up in Grand Rapids, and I asked a really, really dumb question. I tried to make a joke, and I embarrassed myself in front of like my heroes, because it's the guys from Emory.
Okay.
And they actually cut the question from the podcast because it was so bad and so poorly timed. I mean, I was high as shit when I went, so
yeah,
it just was awful.
Was it being cut? Like, is that something you look back at now and realize, or was that the moment? Was that like a aha moment for you, or? No. It was like a funny thing that happened. Like, because I went and listened to the podcast after they aired it, and they had chopped that out. Right.
Of it. They had chopped other people's too.
Yeah. Okay.
But it just was funny. It made me laugh, and but
yeah.
But yeah, so they kind of, I found those guys, and then through Joe Rogan, I found that all the people he had on that were, atheists and Sam Harris and those guys, none of them had like a good enough answer for like the whole there is no God thing. It just, I don't know, something they didn't have. I don't know. There's like a special quality to truth that you just know it when you hear it. Okay. I don't.
I know what you. I mean, I kind of know what you mean, but
yeah, but you know when someone's telling you the truth or not, and I never got a good enough answer.
Sure.
And I didn't get a good enough answer from Bad Christian either.
Yeah. And Bad Christian was by Emory. Is that what you said?
Yeah. The guys from Emory, and one of their friends.
I've never listened to that one. I think Tony has sent it to me to check out or something at some point in time.
It's a pretty good podcast.
I've never listened to it.
I like it. Yeah. Well, I used to like it. I don't really listen to it a lot anymore.
Yeah. Do you listen to podcasts at all now?
Yeah, I listen to a lot.
Okay.
A lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
But yeah, so through my Joe Rogan phase, I found Jordan Peterson.
Yep.
And a lot of his 12 Rules for Life.
Yep. Great book.
And he's got a lot of truth.
Yeah. I really liked his book. I read it a couple summers ago.
Yeah. It's a good book.
Yeah. I need to read it again. I listened to it on audio while I was doing stuff in the yard, and it's hard to it's such a deep book. It's hard to like really take in everything he says the first time, especially listening to it and doing other things at the same time.
Yeah. No, but I found a lot of power in in truth in the stories we tell. Growing up in the church, there was always pastors that would dissect Hollywood movies and how it was like Christianity, or how it was like Jesus, and the stories and the hero's arc and hero's journey and all that kind of stuff, and it's all connected. But through Jordan Peterson, I kind of learned a little bit what it is to be a man. Stand up straight with your shoulders back.
Yeah.
That was I literally did that, and it changed my perspective. I mean, it's a huge deal from going from slouched over with your shoulders forward, of sad, like always being sad and burdened and guilty, and standing up, shoulders back is a huge physical change, and it results in a huge mental change. At least it did for me.
Yeah, for sure.
But I never found his answers. When he's asked about God, he acts like it's the first time he's ever thought about it, and he's thinking real hard. And I don't know. I just got a weird vibe from the guy after a while, especially after he went on Rogan and said that he didn't eat for like 25 days straight, and I'm like, didn't sleep for 25 days straight.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's bullshit. Why are you lying? Why would you lie about this? You would be dead.
Yeah.
So that kind of, I don't know. So, but he didn't, when it came to God, I still felt like it wasn't the right answer.
Sure.
And the answer I was looking for is, I just want to know what is, and like what truth is, what is reality. And I came to some other guys, and then reading on my own and thinking on my own.
Is this like friends of yours, like now, or?
No. It is like conversations I've had with friends, but
I didn't know if you were talking about like you said something about like other people or whatever. I didn't know if those were like.
So the guys I've been listening to a lot recently are they're both blackballed from any mainstream media. But I listen to a lot of Owen Benjamin and Vox Day, and then there's this pastor on YouTube named Jesse Lee Peterson.
Okay.
And a lot
I've heard of Owen Benjamin, but that's the only one.
Yeah. So the Jesse Lee Peterson one, the questions he asks are, I don't know, it's very interesting, and his follow-up questions and getting people to answer directly. It's very interesting, and his stance on what masculinity is made me question a lot of things. And same thing with Owen Benjamin and his stance on masculinity, and questioning things and not being afraid to really question anything. Yeah. So throughout your question, those guys have very controversial views. It's going to be people that will be like, dude, that guy that you had on your show, he's a white supremacist, man. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. But what are some of the? I hear a lot of truth in there.
Yeah. Was this like for you? Did you start just like adding little chunks to like yourself, or like as you found truths that you believed, or was it like an aha moment? You know what I mean? Was this a gradual process, or?
It was a process, but it was a series of aha moments. Like, this is true. Like, even and hearing this outside of the Bible, where it's like, a wise man. When someone criticizes the wise man, like he likes it, he accepts it, he finds joy in that, and the foolish man, rejects it and runs from it. And the who was it that said, a man has as many, I think it's Augustine said, a man has as many masters as he has vices. And that was a huge moment. Stopping watching pornography was a huge moment. That was a realizing that it is a form of control, that your passions can be utilized to get you to think a certain way or vote a certain way, or culturally allow certain things. Um, stopping watching porn was huge. That was a direct reason why I thought that, real men fucked a lot of women.
Sure.
It's why I viewed at that, like, throughout my 20s, every woman I saw, I viewed, like, immediately came to the forefront, like, how would I fuck this girl? Or I bet I could get her to fuck me. Like,
do you feel like that was a catalyst to, like, your marriage and its eventual downfall then as well?
Yeah, that definitely played a role as well.
Yeah.
It 100% did. But stopping watching porn was like, I was wearing, eye patches on both my eyes. I was completely blind.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's you can't explain it without doing it, I guess. But
sure,
like exactly what happens. But it's pretty astronomical. I don't even want to do it anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
There's just realizing that it is being used as control. There's a reason why it's free.
Mm-hmm.
And then the women and men that are involved, a lot of them are sex trafficked.
Yeah.
And then on the main pages, what really snapped me out of it was like when they started putting up the incest stuff.
Yeah.
Like the stepbrother, stepsister, and that's going to lead to, I guarantee you, the next step is mom and dad or brother and sister, not stepsister, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So just seeing that and where that's all headed, and it's all aimed to destroy the family.
Yeah. And it sounds like families.
I'm not trying to get like conspiracy theory or weird or anything like that, but I'm just saying that was a huge impact on me in learning who I am now, and knowing that I am a man, and that a man has a strength to love one woman. A man lets his yes be yes and his no be no. He has integrity. He has goals.
Yeah.
He has courage, but he also has kindness. I look at my grandpa Griffey, and he was definitely a man.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it feels good.
Well,
it feels good.
And I mean, I've noticed a definite, just in the couple times I've seen you in the last couple years, I feel like there is a confidence to you that seems to be different than before. And which is interesting because you kind of mentioned that at the beginning, just about the go with the flow type of thing. And I think it's very much still part of who you are, but sure. I just noticed a little more confidence and whatnot. You've mentioned family quite a bit, and I know if it sounds like, your divorce really had an impact on you and kind of shook you up and woke you up to kind of the man you want to be. And I know you've met someone now, yes. and you guys seem to be very happy and have a great, from what I've heard, you guys have a great relationship.
We do.
And
we do. She's amazing.
Has like some of the changes that you've made in your life, have you noticed how like she came in at those point in times, or like how did you guys meet? When did you guys meet?
Oh, absolutely. She definitely, she's been there like every step of the way from from me, like just questioning everything, not knowing who I was at all,
sure.
Really hating myself. We met at work, and man, she's been very patient and understanding and kind, and I've only told her the truth,
Yeah. Well, in any foundation,
so she knows everything. She knows the details of everything. And
well, in any new relationship, and when you're forming those foundational moments, I mean, if you don't build it on truth, then what are you building?
Exactly.
And what's the point?
Exactly. If you can't say the truth to each other, what are you doing together?
Yeah.
And you have to say hard truths. I had to tell her that I cheated on my wife multiple times.
Yeah.
And she, was able to accept that. And then later I had to tell her more details, and that's been really difficult for her. And she's overcoming it and struggling with it. And it really sucks that my poor decisions in the past are still affecting negatively a woman I love.
Yeah.
And it's, we're going to work through that. And,
Well, and we always used in.
Amazing. She's incredible.
That's awesome. We always use the example in youth ministry, or in the Christian world, it's the baggage,
Yeah.
You're bringing baggage, and it's a really true and great analogy. I mean, we all carry it along with us, wherever we go, and you carry this bag along with you, and of your past, and
you can let go of that baggage, man. You don't have to carry it. You can leave it. You can leave it behind.
Yeah.
For me, being able to let go of that baggage, forgiving my parents, forgiving my dad, and forgiving my mom.
Sure.
Was huge.
I think it's maybe different. What we're thinking of different things, I guess, but because we're still talking about it, right? You've maybe let it go, but we're still talking about it. It hasn't gone away.
True. That's true.
So it's still there. Then
you can still smell the stink.
Yeah. So I mean, and those types of things. I mean, I think it takes time, but obviously, like there is a forgiveness, and there is some like redemption, and that's something that I think is really something that I've been thinking a lot about lately, and just more in societal, not really selfishly, or not even like internally, like looking at myself, but of how do I feel like today's society we've turned towards like just kind of pushing people away. Well, they did this one thing, and they're like marked, now they can't be redeemed.
Apologize.
Yeah. And like, even some of it's like the apologies doesn't matter anymore. It's like, it's too late. They already did it and all this stuff. But what does it look like to really have like true redemption, and like to, what does it look like to make a mistake and then be brought back into society? Like you change. I'm not the same person I was in college.
Right, me neither.
I've made terrible decisions in my life. I've made some choices that I were terrible, throughout my entire life. But I'm a different person now. I'm not that same person, and I think that we're all very similar in those ways. I mean, not everybody's the same, obviously, but there has to be a way to like forgive and move on, and it doesn't mean you forget, doesn't mean that it didn't happen, just means that we've dealt with it, and so
I think the only constant is change, and people are always going to continue to grow or regress, but they're gonna change, and as far as what does that look like? I think when the Bible says you will know them by their fruit, I think you will be able to tell by what people's lives produce, what kind of whether or not they made good changes or bad changes. I think your life's fruit is reflective of, I guess, your inner struggle.
And for me, some of that is. I mean, to go right along with this, that's in some ways what this Crazy Face Uno is, what this podcast and kind of what this thing I'm doing kind of is, it's like looking at myself and being like, man, this was really important to me at one time. It still is important to me, but why am I not motivated to do it?
Right.
What's that look like? What does that mean? My fruits aren't doing good and making a difference. They weren't before. And, just because I'm working in special education doesn't mean that that's a fruit of my labor, or something that.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with people are trying to change the world by going outside of themselves too much instead of changing themselves and then taking care of their family.
Yeah.
I think the way to bring about the most positive change in the world is to this will be controversial to some people.
Here we go. Hit us with it.
Have children.
Okay.
And raise a good family.
Sure.
I think the father has to be in the home.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a huge reason why society is so sick. Is a lack of fatherhood and a lack of fathers, failed fathers,
sure,
or absent fathers. I think that is a huge deal that is not.
Well, you'd be crazy if you didn't think it played a part. I mean, exactly. I can't say that I think it's I think that everything you said has some truth. I think there's components to that for sure. I don't know if I personally believe that's the one thing, but I think it definitely plays
it's not the only thing, but I think it's the biggest thing.
You could be right.
Yeah, I don't know, but that feels it seems so obvious.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael Jackson.
It's the truth. It's the
yeah,
truth.
No, it really is.
It's inward. Before, and something Jordan Peterson said that I thought was right, is before you can like change the world and go outside and tell other people they need to change the world, and you're outside, be it picketing and doing all that kind of stuff, or whatever it is. If you can't make your own bed in the morning, like, what are you doing telling anyone else what to do?
Yeah.
So, I really do think that the family is important, and that is something that is good for men to put their passions towards and energy towards, is raising a good family, not being upset that you're not trying to avoid your family all the time, like those 80s sitcoms, and how modern sitcoms do it too. Like, the dad's like incompetent and he's always trying to avoid his family. Yeah. And it's ridiculous. Like, what better thing? I can't think of anything better.
Yeah.
So
when are you going to have a family there, D-Rock?
Hopefully soon, man.
Cool, man.
I don't know when, but but I do hope it's within the next couple of years for sure.
Yeah.
Amy and I have talked about it, and it's something that we do want, and
that's awesome.
We're gonna get there, but I do, and if that doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I still believe that the best way to make the world a better place is through a family.
Sure.
Whether or not I have one of my own, I hope God blesses me with that.
Yeah.
I hope that I have not ruined my life too much, through bad choices that, I don't get that. So.
Yeah. Well, I hope that you are able to have that as well. If that's something that you desire. Where would you say you're at now? I mean, you like your job, or you've got a job, you're enjoying it, you're doing some fun stuff with that, right?
Yeah. So I work for a company in Elkhart, and I make 3D models of dies and work on a CNC machine, and
cool.
And it's a new product for the company, and there's a lot of room for growth.
Yeah.
I'm basically a department unto myself, which is pretty cool.
Awesome.
And then I also deliver pizzas for a local pizza place to pay off my debt, man.
Yeah, that's one of your.
The huge reason I don't, why we're holding off on children and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
is because I've got so much debt, man.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I get it. That's cool. And I know you had said, I think in one of our conversations all together, that like even delivering pizzas or whatever, like you're buddies with the guy that owns it, and so it doesn't even feel like it feels like you're doing something. Yeah, which I mean adds a whole nother element. I think the people you work with is almost more important than the job sometimes.
Yeah. I agree. And the guy that owns the pizza company I work for, he's just a few years older than me, but man, I love having conversations with him too. I'm finding there's more and more people willing to have like hard, like difficult conversations where nothing is off limits, and where we kind of understand things on a similar level. Yeah. And he's one of those guys. I mean, we get together every Friday, or almost every Friday, and if the conversation's going really well, once that bar closes, we'll go to another one, and we just talk for hours. Yeah. Hours. We'll have 6-8 hour conversations in a blink of an eye. I love it.
I know. Me too. So, that's what I miss most about us all together. I mean, obviously we got lots of talk time in that last couple weekends ago, but which I loved. I know, and Sam and I were kind of talking about that, and that's like my jam. So I'm the same way. Like I like hearing people's stories, and obviously this podcast has been an outlet for me for that. Just, man, great time to be intentional and to dive deep and to go into conversations and whatever. But,
for sure.
Dude, I really, really appreciate you coming on, being vulnerable, and kind of talking about some of the, things and moments in your life. I know that aren't maybe the most proud moments, but they're part of who you are, and they've made you part of the man that you are today, and I'm a better man for knowing you.
I appreciate that, man. That means a lot.
Yeah, so thank you for our conversations. Whether I agree with you or disagree with you, it doesn't matter, right? Like, it really doesn't. And even conversations that we've had, and, we touched on, a few of those, but even conversations we had over the weekend that I was like, man, I do not agree with you at all. But it's made me think, and I'm still thinking about things, That's and good. I think that that's what's important about talking with people. It's funny because I've talked about before on this podcast of we have to talk to people that we don't agree with, that we, that we're not on the same page. There are things that we are, you and I. We're not completely different.
Have a conversation where we're talking about something we don't agree on. I'm definitely down to have that.
I know, and I think it's important because it's important to have those conversations because then we understand each other better. And and again, to be able to stand up, walk away, and go, I love you.
Yes.
And it doesn't change how I think of you as an individual, as a human, as a person. And we go on with our life, and we can have a good time, and still, we're not mad at each other. We're not, it's just, all right, we had that conversation. Cool.
It's just how, that's how it used to be.
Yeah.
It's how it used to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's how it should be. I think it's a good place to be.
I agree. So.
But yeah, thank you, man.
Yeah. Is there any other stories you want to tell? We've got about 8.5 minutes before I got to cut us off. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up.
Anything I could, fit in within that time frame. But
I know.
Thanks for having me on, man.
Absolutely. Really appreciate it. I love you, Derek. I really appreciate
you
coming on. And again, thanks for being vulnerable and sharing your story with us. Really appreciate that.
No problem, man.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Like I say, do good, make a difference, help people out around you. Appreciate you all. Peace.